Hey Transplant community, I'm so glad you paused today to be a part of this video. I wanted to pause for just a few moments and actually answer a viewer's question I've received a number of times, and it all has to do with how to become a mentor / visitor at your local transplant center so that you might try to inspire, educate, all the things that I try to do here on the program. And the reason they ask is because they knew I've already had a number of years experience in doing this exact thing. Now, let me say the first thing you need to understand before you even get started on this is mainly understanding that you need to be checking with your center, with their criteria, their vetting system, whatever you want to call it, to make sure it's okay for you to walk, as we would say, walk up in these rooms like you're going to be doing. And probably the best way to go about doing that is to check with them and see if they already have an in-place volunteer program that allows for that very thing. And if you get in touch with them, then obviously, hopefully, you'll be able to get the what they require, the requirements, take care of all of that, and then ask them specifically, if that's what you're wanting, if you can go and visit mainly with transplant patients. And I oftentimes visit mainly transplant patients for several reasons. One, that's what I'm familiar with, that's what my educational program is all about, but also because typically those people, although they're very sick, they're not contagious. They're not sick with something that's going to affect me. So I'm being put in the best environment I possibly can as far as my immunosuppressed system, and just kind of being in a pretty good position. Now, once you check with them, see what they require or maybe don't require, then you can proceed from there. Now, as far as me and what I'm able to do at my transplant center, UAB, they don't have as strict a criteria. At least if they do, I don't know about it, because I've been doing this so long. Pretty much when I walk up to a unit, onto a certain floor or whatever, everybody recognizes me. They allow me to kind of come and go as I please. So a lot of the places like CICUs, HTICUs, the regular ICU units, that sort of thing, because everyone's so familiar with my face, when I walk in there, they don't really ask any questions. So a lot of times I just walk up and push the doors open that typically the public would have to go up, maybe buzz in, ask permission to come in, whatever. I just go in because I'm able to do that. And I'm not suggesting you're going to be able to do that or really should do that, but that's what I'm able to do. Now, once I get onto the unit, typically, again, because I'm familiar to those people, a lot of times a nurse, a practitioner, a coordinator, whatever, whoever's working the floor, someone generally walks up to me and says, "Hey Jim, how you doing?" They know why I'm there. They know I'm there to mentor transplant patients, so they'll usually point me in the right direction. Now, they don't cross any HIPAA lines in doing that, so before you jump to that conclusion, they're not. They generally just say, "Jim, if you're here to visit with somebody, how about go see the person down in 28? And by 28, they mean in HTICU, the rooms are numbered 528, 529, 530, like that. And they'll say, "How about go check in on the person in 28? They won't tell me much of anything about them. If anything, certainly they can't share that information, but they will point me in the right direction. And so then when I go to room 28, 528, I can approach that door having already known that the person behind the door is someone that I might be welcomed in seeing, and if not, at least someone I may have something in common with. Now, if they can share information, it will be very limited, and sometimes they'll say things like, "Visit with 28. He just had a transplant last week. He could use some encouragement," or "Visit with, 28. She is waiting on transplant. She could use some encouragement," whatever. They'll give me just a snippet of information, but again, they're not crossing any HIPAA lines in doing that because they're not sharing with me any names, any personal information whatsoever. They're just saying kind of, "Hey, go over there and look." And so usually once I do that, I'll approach a door then. And sometimes if I hadn't talked with a nurse, I'll do the same that I'm about to tell you. But when I approach a door, I'm always very, very cognizant. Is that a fancy word? It is for a Mumford boy. I'm very aware of what I'm dealing with behind that door, as far as I'll knock that door, knock, 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 and I'll usually knock maybe 2 or 3 kind of firm times, not like beating on the door like the cops are there or anything, but I'll knock a couple to 3 pretty firm knocks to be sure they can hear me. If I do not get a response after 2 or 3 knocks, I generally will not go in unless there has been a nurse, a coordinator, somebody in the hall that has directly said, "Go see this patient." Then I kind of feel like I got a little bit more leeway to do more. But I understand the patients behind that door. They may, they may be asleep. They may need their privacy. They may not feel like visitors, whatever. So I definitely want to continue to leave the decision to the person who's in the room, to the patient, and I don't just barge in. And I generally will not knock more than, that's hard to say, I will not knock a second time if I don't already have some kind of already permission to go in the door. Now, supposing that the person doesn't answer, again, I'll usually walk away. I may go tell the nurse or the coordinator, hey, they didn't answer the door. Sometimes they'll then turn and say, well, come on down here, and they'll walk me in the door, whatever. If they think that it's okay to go in, they'll lead the way, and I'll let them do that. But if not, if I don't see that nurse or coordinator again, I'll walk away from that door, and I will not go back until maybe another opportunity another day. If the patient says come in, which most do, if they say come in, I always open the door slowly. I stick my head in very carefully, and I'm always, again, very aware of what that patient's dealing with. And so if I find that maybe they say come in and they're in the restroom, I'm not going in. I'll just yell back and say I'll come back later, that sort of thing. But supposing we've got a patient, I'm just building a scenario here. We got a patient, they're laying in the hospital bed there, they've asked me to come in. I'll open the door, and I'm always careful, especially if it's someone I've never met before. I basically have one standardized icebreaker line that I use. You can adapt your own. But I'll usually open the door, and as soon as I open the door, I'll look them straight in the face, and I'll say, you don't know me from Adam's house cat, but my name is Jim Merle. Right now I would say I'm about a 7-year post-heart transplant recipient. I've done very well. I'm also a transplant educator. I work with a mentoring program here at UAB, and I just want to stop in and check and see if you had any questions or if I could help you out in any way. Now, I normally say that all in one swoop without really giving them time to respond, but anyway, I'll say something like that, and I always use that icebreaker line. For me personally, at least, you don't know me from Adam's house cat, okay? I'm not exactly sure what that means, but being from the South, that's just something we say. It basically means we've never met before, you don't know me, but I'm about to introduce myself. And a lot of times, once I say that little spiel, they'll respond back, and they'll say, sure, my name is so-and-so, I just had a transplant last week, or I'm waiting on transplant, or I've just got an LVAD, whatever the situation is. If I'm dealing with other organs, obviously they'll answer appropriately. But generally, once I introduce myself, tell them something about myself, generally speaking, they will in turn respond back, give me a little bit of information to go on, and then we'll start our conversation. Now, I'm always cautious that even though I may get in the door, and even though the conversation may be initiated, I do not poke, I do not prod, I do not try to get more out of them than they're willing to give, and I always base whatever our discussion is based off of what they say or what questions they have, and I do not try to push them farther than they want to go. Okay, now I've had entire videos. I will link up here in the corners. I think it'll be maybe in that corner, one of the corners. I will link up here in the corners a little bit later about being a good hospital visitor. I'll also link one about being a good hospital patient, but I'll link being a good hospital visitor, and I've got some certain things, some rules, some bylaws that I try to go by mentally to keep me there so that I'm there appropriately, and I'll guide you through that. Again, watch the other video for that. I won't go into it. But again, once you get in the door, once you start a conversation, only carry that conversation as far as that patient wants to carry it. Now, be cordial, be kind. Again, share with them your story, whatever you can. Offer them help, offer them assistance. All those things. Try to answer their questions as best you can. Promise them that you'll be thinking about them, that you'll be checking up on them, whatever. Just let it be what it is, okay? And then you might turn and offer them some kind of personal information, some kind of contact. I happen to have business cards that go along with the transplant helper, so I oftentimes then offer them, or maybe a family member in the room, a business card, because that gives them my emails, phone numbers, offer that they can text or call anytime they want. That's what I will do. Now, again, I know your situation is different, especially if you're just now getting into this. You got to be very careful with how you go about it, how comfortable you are versus how comfortable they are. But one of the things that I've always found is, especially what I call a cold door knock, which is walking in on a stranger, it's pretty uncomfortable. I mean, even for me, and I've been doing this now for 7+ years, it's still pretty uncomfortable. But if you'll go in, break the ice, be very courteous while you're there, don't stay too long, I think you'll have a wonderful visit, and I think you'll help out a lot of people. Okay, so just backing up to review, be sure you check with your transplant center, find out what their criteria, what their vetting system is, what their volunteer program is about. You may have to be a part of that to do these visits. If not, then at least you can kind of get some bases to what you should do and not do, and then from there, just be brave and be strong, and go and meet people, introduce yourself, help any way you can. Hope this has helped out in some way. It's just not really been a lot of detail to it. Again, my videos about the visitors, they're going to be very handy in this, but I encourage each and every one of you, become a transplant helper yourself. You don't have to necessarily wear the t-shirts that I give out and sell sometimes to do that. Just become a mentor, become a transplant helper yourself, and you will impact people in a huge, huge way. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're all doing very well, and until next time, stay stronger, friends.